Hello YouTube, it's me again for another video, or better yet, another villain video. So, let's move on to villain number 34. He is Captain America's arch nemesis. And he's a Nazi. And a member of Hydra. Now, let's give a big hand to the Red Skull. Yep, Captain America fought him in the Great War, World War. So, So, the type of villain he is a god wannabe. Like, I mean, the way he holds the Tesseract cube, you know, like this. You know, it's the way he holds it. You know, that's one of his best portfolios ever. You know, so there we go. The Red Skull was originally a German man named Johann Schmidt, who eventually came to hate the human race. He was born in Hermann and Martha. He was born to Hermann and Martha Schmidt. After his mother died, having him, Hermann, who was an abusive alcoholic, blamed Johann for her death. Yeah, so Johann was blamed for his mother's death, you know. So and tried to drown him right after he was born, only to be stopped by the attending doctor. So Hermann committed suicide afterwards. So the doctor took Johann to an orphanage. Johann left the orphanage when he was about 7 years old and began living his life as a beggar and a thief, a reputation which would put him in jail from time to time, even as he tried to find jobs for himself. He eventually worked for a Jewish shopkeeper whose daughter Ethsa was the only person who showed any kindness to Johann. He later tried to rape her and killed her once she rejected his advances. He initially left in terror, but later felt great joy in having committed his first murder. God, that's the Red Skull. So he fell in love with the shopkeeper's daughter, who showed kindness to him, and then he later raped and murdered her, which makes her one of his first victims. Later in his life, working as a bellhop in a hotel, when Adolf Hitler and the Nazis came to power, he was bringing food to the dictator's room when Hitler yelled at a Gestapo agent, saying that he could make the bellboy a better spy than he was. Looks like Hitler is taking an interest in Johann. So Hitler saw that the hatred in his face and decided to make Schmidt the perfect Nazi and his right-hand man. Hitler gave him a red skull-like mask and named him Red Skull. The skull was answerable only to Hitler himself. So what Hitler saw in Johann was hatred for the human race. So he hired him to be his right-hand man. Looks like Skull finally has an opportunity to work with Hitler. Well, wait. We have to wait for it. Alright. Red Skull planned and took part in many espionage and terrorist activities during World War II, and the United States created Captain America in response. In the final days of the war, Captain America and Red Skull confronted each other in the latter's hidden bunker under Berlin. The bunker collapsed, trapping Red Skull. Gases were released in the collapse, which put Red Skull into a state of suspended animation. His American nemesis was also trapped in a similar state later on, albeit frozen in Arctic ice. Both individuals were revived in the 1960s, and they continued to fight each other today. During this period, Red Skull was exposed to one of his own gases, which twisted and deformed his face, so it took on the appearance of his mask. Red Skull once came into possession of a cosmic cube, a device that could alter reality to the user's wishes. The Skull used it to make himself the ruler of the world, but was eventually thwarted by the new Avengers, and reality was reset. He was resurrected by Arnim Zola, who has since then transferred his mind after physical death, and recently transferred it into a body identical to Zola, giving him a form of immortality due to mind transfer. Recently, a revived Red Skull formed the S-Men and became the antithesis of the now deceased Charles Xavier, stealing his body and taking the mutant's brain as his own, developing the same psychic abilities as Xavier in the process, but dedicating himself to eradicating mutants. Now this is World War Hate. Red Skull, as part of his plan to wipe out all of mutant kind, took over the island Genosha and turned it into a concentration camp, abducting numerous mutants and Inhumans. Among those captured were members of the Avengers Unity Division. The Avengers, joined by Magneto, managed to escape and confronted Red Skull. Defeating Red Skull's S-Men, Magneto then proceeded to kill Red Skull without the use of his mutant powers, offering him a pure death. So, Red Skull, man, he's something, isn't he? So Red Skull's last plan was to eradicate the X-Men's mutants and Inhumans, and taking the brain of Charles Xavier as his own. Then Magneto, at the end, without his mutant powers, decided to kill him for his hatred of humanity and everything. So that's it. And this is one of his quotes. "No one could defeat me easily, and yet I can remember another time, a day long past, when I had no skill, no power, nothing.